Soybeans. It's not just vegetarians who eat them. They're also used to make tofu, cooking oil and animal feed. In China, up to 80% are imported from countries like the United States, Brazil and Argentina. Most of these are genetically modified, costing far less than domestically grown crops and of greater quality. These GM foods are rendering non-GM Chinese soybeans unviable. These fields in China's Liaoning province are located in the country's soybean basin. And it's here the impacts of GM imports are being felt. Veteran farmer Lu Xiumin's crops look healthy and ripe for harvest. But this is not a happy man.
The beans yield 2,250 kilograms per hectare, but the price is only 4 yuan per kilogram. I do not know how the price will be after the harvest, but it will not increase a lot, according to the trend of prices.
Planting soybeans for 30 years, Liu knows what he's doing. But even his agricultural know-how can't compete with cheap GM imports.
Our income is relatively poor. We planted soybean for sale, even for a low price.
It's a situation he says is getting worse.
The soybean seeds we bought are low quality, plus the old planting way. The yield is low. At present, few people would like to plant soybeans in this area.
Despite low selling prices for farmers, domestically grown soybeans still can't compete with cheaper imported GM products. Agricultural researcher Song Shu-hong.
Enterprises which depend on domestic soybeans are in a difficult situation. High cost of production leads to high selling prices for soybeans. If you process domestic soybeans, whether for oil extraction or soy foods, you have to suffer high costs.
In 2012, China imported almost 59 million tons of soybeans. Domestically, they produced only 13 million. It's figures like these which have officials worried.
Local oil manufacturers prefer the United States soybean. In a large amount of 10,000 tons, the oil content is always the same.
Unable to compete with GM imports, planting quotas have dropped. In Liaoning, there's been a steady decline from 40,000 hectares in 2008 to just 12,000 this year. To boost incomes, farmers have begun abandoning soybeans in favour of other crops like peanuts.
Soybean is cheap. Soybean is about 4 yuan per kilo in recent years. Peanut is 7 yuan to 8 yuan per kilogram. The price and yield of peanut is higher than soybean.
It's the same story in other parts of China's northeast. In Heilongjiang province, planting dropped by 30% last year. In Jilin, it was 31%. In some areas, it's dropped by as much as 70%. Soybean imports into China attract only a 3% tariff. There's also no quota on how much can be brought in. Couple this with a dwindling domestic market and you have an environment ripe for the picking for foreign GM growers. Planting soybeans also has environmental benefits.
After several years of crop rotation, the fertility and sustainability of soil will be greatly improved. Maize is planted consecutively and repeatedly, which causes great consumption of soil and disaster of yearnings and pests. The damage to soil is a significant threat, if not a disaster.
In June, China's Ministry of Agriculture approved the import of another 3 genetically modified soybeans. They join the 11 already given the green light.
This is probably the toughest time for domestic soybeans. If this situation is not improved in the short term, government and enterprise will have to take various measures to advertise domestic soybeans and products made using them in order to boost brand awareness.
Experts say China must reduce its reliance on imported GM soybeans by protecting local growers.
I think subsidies are necessary for soybean growers. Right now, the government provides subsidies for growing crops and minor subsidies for growing soybeans, but far less than necessary.